A Greek playwright killed by a tortoise falling from the sky. The first and last rulers of Rome, separated by 1,000 years, sharing the exact same name. And a dark medieval tomb curse that successfully predicted the exact date of World War II. History is not a series of random events. It is a locked archive of impossible coincidences. Let's unlock it. In 753 BC, a legendary figure named Romulus founded a small settlement on the Palatine Hill, becoming Rome's first king. For over 1,200 years, this settlement grew into the greatest empire of the ancient world. But empires, like men, must fall. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire collapsed. The name of the very last emperor who surrendered Rome to the barbarians? Romulus Augustulus. A 1,000-year empire of blood and glory began with a king named Romulus and died under an emperor named Romulus. In 306 AD, Constantine the Great became Roman emperor, eventually founding the magnificent capital of Constantinople and establishing Christianity. His mother, who aided his rise, was named Helena. For over 1,100 years, this Eastern Roman Empire stood as a bastion of civilization. But in 1453, Constantinople was besieged and fell to the Ottoman Empire. The very last Byzantine empire who died defending the city walls? Constantine XI. And his mother's name? Helena. The Christian Roman Empire was born under Constantine and Helena, and perished under Constantine and Helena. In 480 BC, the Greek navy fought a desperate battle against the invading Persian Empire at the Battle of Salamis, saving Western civilization from annihilation. By pure, impossible chance, the three greatest tragic playwrights of ancient Greece were linked to this single day. Aeschylus, the father of tragedy, fought as a soldier in the battle. Sophocles, then a handsome teenager, was chosen to lead the victory choral dance. And Euripides, the third giant of Greek tragedy, was born on the island of Salamis on the exact day of the victory. In 585 BC, the ancient empires of the Medes and the Lydians had been locked in a brutal 6-year war with no end in sight. As they clashed in a final bloody battle along the Halys River, the sky suddenly turned pitch black. A total solar eclipse had occurred directly overhead. Believing the gods were expressing fury at their warfare, both armies dropped their weapons, ceased fighting immediately, and signed a permanent peace treaty on the battlefield. Julius Caesar fought a bloody, years-long civil war against his chief political rival, Pompey the Great, ultimately defeating him. Years later, on the Ides of March in 44 BC, a conspiracy of senators assassinated Caesar inside the theater of Pompey. As Caesar collapsed from 23 stab wounds, his body slid down to the base of a massive stone statue of Pompey. He died with his blood literally pooling at the feet of his dead rival's monument. The great Greek writer Aeschylus lived in constant fear of a prophecy that predicted he would be killed by a falling object. To avoid falling roof tiles or collapsing buildings, he spent his days sitting in wide-open fields outside the city. But the sky itself delivered his fate. A passing eagle carrying a tortoise mistook Aeschylus's bald head for a smooth rock and dropped the heavy reptile from the clouds to crack its shell, killing him instantly. King Pyrrhus of Epirus was one of antiquity's greatest military commanders, famously surviving brutal battles against the Roman legions. In 272 BC, while fighting a chaotic street skirmish inside the city of Argos, Pyrrhus engaged a local soldier. Watching from a nearby rooftop, the soldier's poor, elderly mother saw her son in danger. She picked up a heavy clay roof tile and hurled it into the street. It struck Pyrrhus directly in the neck, paralyzing him and allowing his enemies to finish him off. If these forgotten corners of the ancient world are pulling you in, consider subscribing and tapping the like button. Drop a comment with the coincidence that surprised you most. It genuinely helps this archive keep growing.
In September 1066, King Harold Godwinson of England rushed north to stop a massive Viking invasion. At Stamford Bridge, the Saxons were halted by a single unnamed Viking giant who stood alone on the narrow wooden bridge. Wielding a massive battle axe, he single-handedly killed 40 Saxon soldiers, holding off an army of 15,000. He was only defeated when a Saxon soldier floated under the bridge inside a wooden barrel and stabbed him from below through the gaps in the timber planks.
King Harold Godwinson's victory at Stamford Bridge was short-lived. The exact day after he defeated the Vikings in the far north, William the Conqueror's Norman fleet landed on the undefended southern coast of England. Harold was forced to march his exhausted, depleted army over 250 miles back south in just days. He met the fresh Norman invaders at Hastings, where he was killed, ending Anglo-Saxon rule forever. In 1405, the brutal Turco-Mongol conqueror Tamerlane was buried in Samarkand. His tomb was inscribed with a warning: "Who opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I." On June 19, 1942, Soviet archaeologists opened the sarcophagus. Exactly 3 days later, Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history against the Soviet Union. In late 1942, the Soviets reburied Tamerlane with full Islamic honors. Shortly after, the German army surrendered at Stalingrad. While marching through Asia, Alexander the Great fell critically ill. As his trusted doctor, Philip, prepared a cup of medicine, Alexander received a secret letter warning him that Philip had been bribed by the Persians to poison him. Instead of panicking, Alexander handed the warning letter to Philip to read, and while Philip was reading it, Alexander calmly drank the entire cup of medicine. The medicine cured his fever, proving Philip's absolute loyalty. Roman Emperor Domitian was terrified of a prophecy that predicted he would meet a violent end at exactly midday on September 18, 96 AD. On that fateful day, Domitian repeatedly asked his guards for the time. An accomplice in the assassination plot lied, telling him it was well past midday. Relieved, Domitian let his guard down and entered his private chambers, where the conspirators were waiting. He was stabbed to death at the exact hour predicted by the prophecy. Thousands of years ago, ancient civilizations in Egypt, Mesoamerica, and Southeast Asia constructed massive, geometrically complex pyramids. They lived oceans apart, spoke completely different languages, and had absolutely zero physical contact with one another. Yet, they built identical structures, used them for sacred rituals, and aligned them perfectly to the exact same astronomical constellations. We associate woolly mammoths with the frozen wastes of the Ice Age and the Great Pyramids with advanced ancient history, but they existed at the exact same time. While ancient Egyptian builders were laying the massive limestone blocks of the Great Pyramid of Giza, a surviving colony of woolly mammoths was still actively roaming Wrangel Island off the coast of Siberia. Attila the Hun, known as the Scourge of God, successfully invaded the Roman Empire, laid waste to cities, and survived countless bloody battles. But in 453 AD, the great conqueror met his end on his wedding night. After drinking heavily at the feast, Attila suffered a severe nosebleed while lying on his back. He choked to death on his own blood, while his new young bride sat in the corner of the tent, too terrified to call for help. If these stories pulled you in, our other archives are waiting just beyond this video. Go explore them and join the conversation below.